What's up, Arc Junkies? I hope y'all are recovering from daylight savings time. I know it usually takes me a couple days to get used to this time change business, but good news is we're going to have an extra hour of daylight for the next 9 months or so that's kind of a plus. This week also kicks off spring break for my kids, so for the first time in a long time, I'm actually going on vacation. Well, more of a staycation. I'm not going to be teaching any classes, I'm not going to be performing weld certs, writing WPSs, or recording any episodes for next week. I'm finally going to actually take a break. So that being said, there's not going to be an episode of the Arc Junkies on the 18th, but the good news is there's over 400 episodes in the Arc Junkies catalog, so you should be able to go back through the archives and catch up on some episodes you may have missed. I will be back on the 25th with all new episodes. And on a side note, on the 21st of March, check out A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. They came to Underground Metalworks, and we did a go-to show in the shop, and I gave them a lesson on MIG welding. You should be able to find that episode on your favorite downloader app, or if you're local to Orlando, the episode's going to air at 7 p.m. on Real Radio 104.1. I had a great time chopping it up with Tom, Dan, and Sam, and I've been a fan of their show for years, so to be featured on their show not once but twice is freaking awesome, so be sure to give that a lison. Now let's talk about this week's show. Joining me this week is David Johnson from Boom Nation. If y'all are on Instagram, you've no doubt seen some of the reels or posts that have come across your feed from Boom Nation. I wasn't exactly sure what they did, so I did a bit of research and I asked David to come on the show. Boom Nation is a website and it's also an app for your phone that connects employers with skilled trades workers across all disciplines, including welding, heavy equipment, plumbing, and pretty much any blue-collar skilled trade that's out there. They'll be able to connect and link you up. And this service is free for the workers. So whether you want to travel, whether you want to stay local, Boom Nation can link you up with a good company to fit your skills and your goals. In this episode, David and I discuss the mission of Boom Nation, which is to connect the industry with skilled trades workers. He highlights the importance of showcasing the cool aspects of the skilled trades and dispelling some of the misconceptions about blue-collar work. He also emphasizes the growing demand for skilled tradespeople and the limitations of AI in replacing manual labor. We also discuss the challenges of social media fame and the importance of authenticity in the trades. David also explains how Boom Nation serves as a liaison between industry and the workers, matching candidates with companies based on their skills and preferences. He emphasizes the value of reputation, soft skills, and professionalism in the trades. We'll get right into the episode after a quick word from our supporters. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies Podcast is brought to you by CK Worldwide, the seasoned veterans in TIG welding since 1967. CK Worldwide has been honing their craft and delivering top-notch torches, parts, and accessories for decades, longer than most of us have been alive. If you haven't experienced the CK Flex Lock torch yet, you're in for a treat. Imagine a torch with a head that can rotate a full 360 degrees. Talk about versatility. Whether you prefer gas or water-cooled models, CK's got you covered. And let's not forget about their SuperFlex cables offering unparalleled flexibility and durability, ensuring you can tackle any project with ease. But that's not all. CK Worldwide continues to innovate with products like their Gas Saver kits featuring glass nozzles for improved gas flow coverage, and visibility while saving on gas consumption. Plus, their latest MT375 AC/DC welding machine comes complete with a water cooler and cart for ultimate convenience. When it comes to TIG welding, CK Worldwide sets the standard. We're also brought to you by Outlaw Leather. Are you in search of premium leather welding gear and accessories? Look no further than Outlaw Leather. Outlaw specializes in crafting custom leather welding hoods, arm pads, bolt bags, sleever bar holders, tool belts, and a wide range of custom welding accessories. Each piece is handcrafted with precision and designed to withstand the toughest conditions. But that's not all. Outlaw Leather also stocks essential PPE for welding, ensuring you stay safe on the job. Plus, they offer a selection of quality hand tools you can trust. Visit outlawleather.com today to explore their extensive range of products. Whether you're a professional welder or a DIY enthusiast, Outlaw has you covered. And the best part is, as a listener to the Arc Junkies podcast, you can save 15% off on all in-stock leather goods when you use code word ARCJunkies in the discount box at checkout. Outlaw Leather is your trusted source for custom leather welding gear, PPE, and quality hand tools. Elevate your welding game today with Outlaw Leather. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
Thank you for downloading show number 316 of the Arc Junkies Podcast.
You're listening to the Junkies Podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, David, welcome to the Junkies Podcast.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Oh, man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. But I've seen Boom Nation's ads come across my feed quite a bit on Instagram prior to following your page, and I really didn't know a whole lot about it. But then I had Mike Ewing come on the show, and he was telling me about the services you provide and what you guys do. But for those that don't know, can you give me a little bit more background on exactly what Boom Nation is?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thanks to Mike for giving you, the recommendation to follow us. He's been a guest on our podcast, and he's a great friend to be able to spread the word. He's doing a lot of good things with talk about the pride of being involved with welding and with blue collar. But to the question of Boom Nation, I tell you, we're the biggest blue collar community in the U.S. And blue collar to us means anyone involved in the skilled trades. So think of the hard hat, steel toe boot crowd. You're going to have people that are welders, carpenters, electricians, maybe a CDL driver, equipment operator, but pretty much those people that work direct field out, doing the real work that kind of takes a little bit more demands physically of the people, to build the shit that needs to be done. That's our community. So with that, we do a lot of content creation, and that content creation is done purely and simply to encourage engagement from that community with us and with the companies that we want to provide services for. So some of those services can be recruiting services, right? So if you have guys that are looking for their next opportunity, we give a place for them to be able to come on and apply for positions that are posted with our company for those companies that are hiring. So we end up being that middle party. But we also have the opportunity to present them with information such as maybe educational opportunities. There's always that opportunity to upskill or reskill. And so there's trade schools, vocational programs where sometimes there's tuition assistance that's offered or even grant programs going in. So we just try to provide information that is, one, entertaining, two, opportunities for employment, and then three, maybe things that can go for education for the group as well. And just really try to enrich the community environment for everyone that's involved.
Okay. So you guys are also like highlighting all the cool things about the skilled trades. I mean, right now there's a huge push to get more people back into the skilled trades because we kind of talked about it before, we hit the record button. A lot of folks were told growing up, like, don't get into blue collar, stay away from the trades. But that's not the case. A lot of people are happy, myself included, working in the skilled trades. And so for you guys to go out there and be able to highlight and showcase, some of the cool stuff that's going on, not just in welding, because it takes, a lot of different facets to, do a turnaround on a building or, erect a building or, like level of dirt work. I mean, you guys are kind of showcasing all that.
Yeah, we want people to take pride in whatever role they play in the organization as a whole, right? So whether you're the guy that's out working in the field, whether you're the supervisor that's managing a team, or maybe you're the owner of the company, and you are able to start, look at an HVAC business. How many HVAC businesses around the country do you know of that started as a guy that was a technician in the early days himself, worked really hard, ended up deciding that you probably had the opportunity to estimate some jobs, to plan some jobs, and then, man, I'm going to take a chance and bet on myself. And then so he started hiring guys like himself to work on a team. The opportunity for entrepreneurship is remarkable whenever it comes to the skilled trades. And you kind of spread that across all of the things that need to be done in the construction industry, various aspects that takes people with a very advanced skill set. It doesn't always look like a college degree. Right? Sometimes it does, and there's nothing wrong with people going to university and taking that career path if it's something that fits them and they're happy with doing, because there's plenty of opportunities out there for those guys. That also means that people need to take pride in the other positions that support every task that needs to be done on those jobs. One thing that I can tell you that I'm a big believer in is I believe in the market. So I think supply and demand takes care of a whole lot. So for a long time, people were told, oh, well, maybe you're not the smartest person. Maybe you need to go into the trades. Maybe you need to do this. Well, I don't think that's the best fit because one, you have to have some aptitude to be able to understand some of the specifications of particular jobs. You also have to have some general knowledge to be able to understand things that are going to work, troubleshoot some issues that come up, and try to really deliver a good quality product and service. So you're going to need somebody with some snap. Well, guess what? You may be someone that likes to work with your hands. You may be someone that is vocationally inclined. That doesn't make you dumb.
No.
That could outfit you to be someone that accelerates in the field. So maybe you start with some vocational training. Maybe you go to trade school, get those skills that you need, and next thing you know, you've got a $10 million operation because you started at the bottom and you have a great fundamental understanding of the business. But maybe you just want to be the guy that's on the bench every day too. There's room for everybody in that path, and the great thing is you get to choose.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is so different that other people don't realize is there's been such a flood of people coming in with college degrees that there's not as much of a demand for that anymore, right? Because that's the path that everyone was pushed into for so long that a lot of times those guys and gals are finishing up, a 4-year degree, have no work experience, and they turn around and say, holy shit, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, nobody's
I'll tell
hiring.
you
The
what.
market's saturated.
That's right. It's sad to say, but I mean, I tell you where I've seen a whole lot of people that end up with a degree and don't know what to do, that they don't have any real world experience. They probably go to retail or hospitality. Not that there's anything wrong with those jobs. We need those jobs to fill too, but let's be honest. The earning potential is nowhere near, for a server at a restaurant, what it is for a welder that's out in the field. So ultimately, those that have the skills are going to be able to demand a better rate as there's fewer and fewer people with the skills needed to make these sites run and actually build the stuff that we need to keep the economy going.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest stereotypes that we have going on as a nation is if you're super smart, you need to go to college, and if you're not college material, if you're considered dumb or like challenged, you need to get into the skilled trades, and that's simply not the case. Some of the most intelligent people I've ever met do not have a degree, and they're very good with their hands. They're hands-on type of people, but they're super intelligent and very smart. But on the other side, I've met a lot of people with, they've got a list of degrees and they couldn't pour piss out of a boot if the directions were written on the heel. I mean, it just blows my mind that, people think that a piece of paper is what's going to make you smart. No, you dedicated 4, 6, 8 years of your time and paid a ridiculous amount of money just to find out that, like you go and you get your degree. And like you said, you come out and there's no job because the market's saturated because everybody was told this is the way. This is the way you need to go through it. And now they're kind of stuck. I've met a lot of people at stocking shelves at Home Depot, and they've got a bachelor's degree in something. And there's nothing wrong with stocking shelves. We need people to be able to do that. But they were kind of sold a bad bill of goods, and now, they bought into that whole thing and they paid a ridiculous amount of money. And, they're kind of stuck in this situation.
Yep.
Whereas, if you go the skilled trades route, you learn a skill set, you become more valuable, and you can travel. You can move around the country. You're not stuck to one area.
That's exactly right. This isn't the most important thing just yet, but it's something to be on the horizon. Everybody's all interested in talking about AI these days, right? And they're talking about what are the computers going to take over, and is there going to be a job, for this field or that field? Well, I guarantee you one job that AI is not taking over. It's not taking over a blue-collar job out in the field. It's not building shit. So it could probably take care of some of the administrative type work that we do. Tell you what, it's a much better writer than I am. And, it's a tool to be used in what you can do. But, as those opportunities go away and computers and systems are able to do things more efficiently, there's going to be even more demand for those people that have the vocational skills that computers can't replace. And so if I was making that decision for me today, I know that the experience that I've seen over the past couple of decades would definitely push me into the direction of some vocational aptitude at a minimum, as opposed to just classroom training, because I think you're missing the boat if you do that.
Yeah, and I think the demand for skilled trades is just going to continue to grow higher and higher. I mean, especially you've got all these jobs right now that are being replaced with AI. like your graphic artists, the people that run the printing services and stuff like that. They do all the designs and layouts. Hell, between Canva and a little bit of I mean, I don't need to hire a printer anymore. I can print that stuff off at home. I can build up, all my advertising and marketing stuff right here, from my cell phone or my laptop, and just hit, buy some high quality paper and hit print. That whole industry is being wiped out now due to AI and a couple of apps. So, I mean,
Yep.
if you think about it that way, I mean, what's the next job that's going to be taken over? I mean, you got all these people that are into journalism and stuff like that. Well, I can just hop on over to Chat GPT and plug in some good information from, highlights of today's topics, and boom, it spits out a newspaper for me, or, a magazine article. Like those jobs are kind of going by the wayside. But you can't program into Chat GPT or one of these AI apps or anything like that and say, hey, go weld up that moment connection. It's not happening. And I mean, yes, robots are coming. I mean, they're already here. But the amount of time that it takes to set up and get dialed in and program that thing to, weld out a moment connection or something to that effect, or go stuff bolts in a column, it's not feasible to be able to do that. You're still going to need manual labor at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And look, I think the other thing that comes from that is just life experience. You need experience doing something for real. So, look, there's so many people today, some young, some old, but you ask them what they want to do, and they want to be a social media influencer. They want some big page, and they kind of see that as the ticket to a better life than what they think they have now. Well, guess what? Do you know whose pages do the best? Those that have a story to tell, those that actually have something of value to share with others. So whether your interest is in the trades, or whether your interest is in entertainment, maybe it's something fitness related, or whatever, is something that you find to be interesting, you can't just start creating content for that if you have no experience with it. But if you've jumped in, had some trials, learned how to overcome, you've learned maybe some tricks of the trade, you've had lessons that you can share with others to hopefully they can have more success than you did, guess what? People are going to follow you naturally because you speak the same language they do. You have a message that resonates with your audience, and having an audience that is engaged is what is really important. That's where the value from social media comes from. And too often I think people that are seeing the shiny allure of being popular as being the value, when at the end of the day, that's the the side effect of having a good story and being able to communicate with a group. So I think if you can take and build those skills up and have more valuable information to share, the rest of it will take care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing a lot of people don't see is like that going that route. I mean, it seems very cool. I mean, yeah, I get to work from home and I make all this money and I got a Lamborghini and this, that, and the other thing. That's not really sustainable. If you sit back and think about a lot of the social media influencers and YouTube superstars and stuff like that, especially if they're not really financially savvy with their money, they're spending this stuff as fast as it comes in. That's going to dry up one day. You're going to eventually run out of people. Are just going to get bored with you. It's not a long-term goal. Like my kid at one point wanted to be a social media YouTube famous, because he sees the Mr. Beast and the Logan Pauls and the Jake Pauls, and like they make all this money and it looks really cool. It looks really fun, but it's not for everybody. If everybody got into that industry, I mean, like who's going to build the bridges? Who's going to weld the ships? Who's going to do this? Who's going to, everything that we take for granted day to day, who's going to do that work? Right. It's got to come back down to the blue collar worker. So yeah, it'd be kind of cool to, have a huge YouTube channel and a big following and a bunch of sponsors. But then again, you say the wrong thing at one time on air or off air, and the word gets out, boom, all your sponsors get pulled. What are you going to do the next day? It's just not a sustainable way of doing things. Yeah, if you want to jump in there, if you have a story to tell, if you've got that experience to be able to share with people and resonate, yeah, I mean, that could launch you onto, a different type of career path. But that's the exception, not the rule.
Exactly. And I think that the following of your general influencer tends to be much more passive than those that you have an audience that's engaged with your story. So, you probably have people from the welding industry that you know of, that you've probably had previous relationships with, or you've had the opportunity to meet through social media. And now you have ties with them that is so much stronger than anyone that you would have known before or had that opportunity, only because there was no way to connect with someone across the country with similar taste, right?
Mhm.
Or similar experience. But now, as you're able to network with other people from your industry, from your trades, there's an opportunity to learn so much from one another. And if you do that, then you have the opportunity to share that with others. And so there will be people that want to engage with you. So it's one of those things that you get out of it, what you put into it,
Oh, for
but it
sure.
just can't be fake, because that's one of the things. And I tell you that I think the blue collar community will be the first to call you out more so than anyone. They have no patience for fake, and so if I started trying to spout off, technical specs or anything for welding, you would know exactly how little I know about welding immediately, right? And so you can only fake it for so long, but whenever you kind of go to the more general lifestyle type stuff, everyone else is trying to create. Um, you're one of many, and so it just doesn't seem to be the best path that I would take if I was setting out on that course today.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to be true to yourself. Otherwise, people are going to sniff out the BS pretty damn quick. It's like,
Yep.
I never set out to be any sort of like, I hate using the word influencer because I don't feel that I'm an influencer. I hope I'm not an influencer. Like, I don't want to influence anybody. I want to entice them to get into the trades or, like share my love of welding. But I've been doing this stuff for the past 26 years. I didn't set out to get on Instagram. Like, somebody came and they sought me out, and I saw that as, okay, this is kind of a cool platform. I can use this to, like, meet new people, leverage my business, do free marketing and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I look at it. And it's been great. But if I didn't know anything about welding, I couldn't get on there and, just start telling people how great this is. Like, I'm truly passionate about what I do, but there are some folks on social media that, they're trying to do that fake it till you make it stuff, and it's only going to go so far, and they're really not around anymore.
That's right. Yeah, very short lived.
Yeah, and blue collar people, they have no problem calling your bullshit out.
Just to look at some of the comments that come through. A lot of the content that we put out, look, a bunch of the stuff that we do is meant to be entertaining, and it's just that. And we try to give credit to everyone. We have no pride in authorship when it comes through that. A lot of the materials either submitted from people that are in our community or other things that our team finds, online and shares with others. We always try to give credit to the original contributor, but it's something that makes us laugh or something that we've seen, first person, that I know somebody else is going to think the same thing. I remember when I saw a dumbass do that one day, everybody's going to laugh at this, and so you just kind of share that. But that's why so many people communicate today with everything else in their life. I mean, how many friends do you have that you probably don't talk to each other every day on the phone, but you probably sling about 5 memes back and forth with, right?
Oh yeah,
And it's just a new way to kind of keep up to date with your buddies. And it's probably going to be something that is involved with your career.
yeah. It's been an actual. I mean, like, social media is as big of a pain in the ass as it can be sometimes. It's been an awesome tool to be able to connect and collaborate with a lot of people. Like, I've chatted with people, from Germany to California to Canada and Mexico and all over the place. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that just sitting here at my house or like working on my local job or, even working at the school. Like, your community is much smaller that way, but, to be able to have access to, social media, it kind of allows you to have a much broader perspective, and interact with a lot more people further and further away. And then eventually, the cool thing is you get to meet a lot of them in person,
Yeah, for
between
sure.
like different seminars and shows and stuff. Like FabTech's a big one. I call that's a family reunion. It's a welding convention, but that's more of a family reunion than anything. But I get to meet a lot of these people that I've been chatting with for the past couple of years via DM on Instagram.
Man, I hear everybody talk about FabTech. I haven't had the opportunity to go yet. With me coming from the refining and petrochem world, my focus was just a bit different, before coming into this exact focus on the skilled trades. But there's not one person I know of from the skilled trade industry that has not mentioned FabTech. So it must be like, the Super Bowl event of the year for the vast majority of blue collar workers out there.
Oh yeah, especially for anybody that works with metal. So it's like the North America's largest welding and metal forming and finishing convention. I mean, it's massive. This year it's going to be in Orlando. It usually bounces back and forth between Atlanta, Chicago, and Vegas. But Vegas is out this year because they're also hosting the Formula One race at the same time. So Orlando's going to host it, but it's kind of like what's that other one? Con Expo for like heavy equipment and stuff like that. They do that one out in Nevada. It's kind of like that, whereas Con Expo is more for heavy equipment, earthwork, and stuff like that, mining equipment. FabTech's more driven towards welders and fabricators and stuff, and it's massive. And it's a 3-4 day show depending on the location that it's at. But you can walk through it. I mean, they have 60-ton press brakes set up. They've got live welding machines set up there. You can actually walk up and try it. They've got CNC plasma cutters and robots. I mean, like last year I went through there. It kind of looked like a glimpse into the future. It's like walking through an automation shop. I mean, everything is mechanized now. The plasma cutters, the welding machines, everything is, at the end of a robotic arm. It's nuts.
Hell yeah. Man, I can only imagine what type of bump they get from beer sales whenever that crowd's in town for the week.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be huge.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I know about the blue-collar workers, they can slam some beers back quick.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I do an event every year with AWS at FabTech called Arcs and Ales, and it's literally welding and drinking beer. So, I mean, we're not welding, but, we just link up, and it's more of a networking thing, but it always happens over drinks. And every night there's an after party going on somewhere. We do one with Weld Porn, Blue Demon, Outlaw Leather, and all those guys. It's a whole nother meet and greet, and it's usually at a bar. So tell me a little bit more about Boom Nation. I mean, you guys are connecting industry with the worker for the most part, right?
Yep. So what we're trying to do is build up the community for the engagement to be able to occur between everyone that's involved in the industry. So that's going to be companies that want to recruit blue collar workers to come to work for them. That might be companies that want to market a product to the community. So let's say that you're a workwear company and these people want to buy workwear and boots. You would have a captive audience with the people that follow us because we're constantly putting out content to engage with them, to compete with that experience that they have in life with everything else. And so if you think about where your typical worker is, they live off of their phone. They're probably not working off of email addresses. A lot of them tend to go to social apps. They probably go to Instagram and Facebook, and they may see what's up on their feed. If a job opportunity pops up, they may choose to apply to it. They may go to some groups that have other people that have similar interests, and a lot of times that ends up being work related too. But what we found that people do is they kind of self-segregate into those groups. And so you may have a group of the welders group, and you may have another scaffold builders and something else. And so they end up kind of getting just very specific information that kind of puts the blinders on, that they don't see larger trends of what's going on in the industry. And what we try to do is communicate all of that information and opportunities to everyone that are in the trades. And so if you see an ad come across and you're a welder, you may see an ad for a mechanic position. And the likelihood that, you're not a mechanic, instead of you just passing on that, you may have a brother or a cousin or a friend that is, and you can share those ads with those people. And so the idea is you just try to reach a larger audience. But what we do is through the content creation, try to create a following so people have a reason to engage with us beyond just looking for a job. We do think that's an important part. We want to help match good people with good opportunities. And we want to help companies be able to learn how to communicate with those workers, because so many times their approach to the online, presence is just very different than the experience of the workers themselves. And so a lot of times they just miss one another, whether it's in the messaging, if it's where they put, post for positions or what, they just miss each other. And I think some of that is because companies have to maintain a profile, right, online, because their customers are looking at that information, and they use those sites and information to be able to sell their business. And whenever they do that, they can't always have the same conversation that they would with the guys that work for them openly. And so, you have to worry about negative comments. You have to worry about people that are not even at your organization coming on and, adding things and really having to police that all of the time. It brings in the opportunity for someone to be in the middle and to be able to bring that community together and kind of be the buffer between both sides of that community. So we can be as raw and edgy as we want to be, and it's not going to reflect bad on an employer. And with that, we can put content in that's a bit more entertaining than the stale, boring shit that you're going to get from, a major, corporation that they can't have something out that's going to make them look silly. Well, we don't mind. If we think it's funny, we're going to put it out there anyways. And so it just has an opportunity for people to engage the way they do at the job sites anyways. You and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but people need to understand that the conversation that you can have in the boardroom is very different than the conversation you have out in the shop. And it's natural. People, tend to understand that already. And so we give them the opportunity to be able to separate those conversations also whenever it comes to the virtual world.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about before the episode. You get gray collar. It's like a combination of white collar and blue collar. So you guys are kind of that gray collar in between that kind of translates back and forth between what the corporation is looking for and what the skilled trade welders need, or the skilled trades people need. You're kind of like that in between, kind of like a liaison almost.
And if you think about it, that's where the best managers are also, right? So your manager is going to have to be able to effectively communicate with his team that's out in the field and his crew, but he's also got to communicate with the other people in the organization that he brings information to from the field. He's in that position of supervision for a reason. So he has to be able to have that conversation with both sides and kind of straddle that fence in between. And so, there's opportunity for everyone to kind of fit that role. And you kind of have to know who you are as an individual, where your tendencies are, and where your best chance for success is, or learn a new skill set, learn, the ability to have that conversation maybe at a higher level than what you would before. But at the end of the day, if you don't have respect and understanding of both sides of that equation, then you're probably going to limit your opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the biggest problems is you have a lot of times the HR rep is the one writing the job description.
Yeah.
So there's a huge disconnect right there.
Yeah, and what do they know? They know HR policies. They know what's needed for recruiting and EOC type stuff, and all those things that's important for corporate life today. But how many of them came from the field themselves? What do they know about being out there, having to build some of the shit, some of the workarounds you have to do, and then you add into that to do the job safely. A lot of times you look at the experience that's required to go on to even be considered for a position. Well, if you have these hard numbers in where you have to have 5 years experience or whatever, and someone applies for a position that has 4.5 years, most employers would want to consider them. But if someone is not taking the time and attention to look at the exact details, those people go into the no pile, and there's a whole stack of those on a desk, for every company out there trying to hire. And then they wonder why they can't reach the right people. Big part is they put these systems into place and they remove the personal aspect from it. And they just end up limiting their opportunities as well when it comes to getting new team members.
Yeah, that was one of the funniest things, or the hardest thing. Like my students, they'd get close to graduation. They're like, Mr. Becker, like everywhere I want to apply, everything says you must have 5 to 7 years worth of work experience. And I said, go down there and see if you can talk to the foreman. Go see if you can talk to the supervisor, because a lot of times, like, you possess the skills that company's looking for. But if you can just get past that HR person, if you can get past the front desk and go talk to the shop foreman or the supervisor, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you a weld test. They're like, oh, okay, you can do exactly what we're looking for. Whereas if you call up, if you submit your resume, and a lot of the larger companies, they're using AI software, and they have been for years. It's probably way more refined now, but they put out a list of the, your work description, a list of experience, that they're requiring, and it would kind of match your resume versus what the job is actually looking for. And if those two things don't align, if you don't hit a high enough percentage, it just spits it out. Like you don't even get a chance. So I would tell a lot of my students, cater your resume to that specific position. Make sure you have keywords in there that's in the job description. But like, if you can get past 9 times out of 10, if you can get past the HR person, talk to the supervisor or the shop foreman, you're going to get a weld test there, because at that point you get that personal connection, and
yeah, for sure.
And a lot of people that have these skill sets, like their resume, let's face it, they're not great at writing a resume. But, let me, show me what the weld test is. Let me go take that weld test. Let me go, whatever tests you have, let me go ahead and take those. Like, I'm not good at putting all my information on a resume and spiffing it up and making it all shiny and everything like that. I mean, half I was talking to my buddy Ryan Eubank a while ago, and he's like, "How many jobs have you had where you actually had to really submit a resume, or did you just know somebody?" The majority of the jobs that I've ever got, I knew somebody, or I just showed up. You know, maybe I had a resume, maybe I didn't, but like the majority of the time, I didn't need a resume. They weren't looking at the resume. They're like, "Can you do the job?" "Yeah, show me." Boom, go do it.
Yep. Look, I think that is more prevalent for blue collar positions than it is any other type of job out there. Look, there's a room for some positions to require resumes and be able to see a more extensive work history and kind of what story that tells. But most part, I think that a lot of people are just requiring a resume because that's what they were taught to put in for every position coming in.
Mhm.
And if you really start to look at the skill set of the individual, one, you need to make sure if it's a position that requires a certification, do you have the certification, yes or no? Well, that's not far enough either. You're going to have to get to some type of practical skill assessment and really, see where the rubber meets the road. Because there's some people that can pass a test and can't work for shit,
Can't do the work,
right?
yeah.
And then you have other people, they just not very good at taking tests, but they make a jam up hand
Mhm.
and they will be some of the best workers you ever find. And they probably have forgot more than those other guys that are able to pass the test and, not actually able to put it into use. And so unless you have someone like that field manager, that supervisor that can really sit back and assess just how good of a fit that person is going to be for their crew, you have misalignment from the beginning. And then so many times you're going to end up having these conversations, a recruiting department and then the field management will talk about, well, you can't send me enough people. And they say, well, I keep on sending you people and you don't hire any of them. And you just have these numbers going back and forth and ends up being a lot of applications shuffled back and forth. But at the end of the day, they're not aligned on what they're looking for. They're looking for someone that has, 5+ years experience in every single position, probably worked for one of their competitors and is bringing over, a great deal of knowledge and it's just like a plug and play. And while there's some people out there like that, the real opportunities exist in trying to pull those candidates from everyone that's applied and find who's going to be the best fit culture wise, and then who has the best skill set to be able to apply and can work with your team.
Mm-hmm. So do you guys kind of, like you said, you were like the buffer between industry and the worker? Do you try to help match and find like the best potential candidate for the specific position that's being offered?
Yeah, with some services that we have, that's exactly what we do. So we do social recruiting, and so with that could be campaigns that we do for companies, looking to hire for a certain position. We also have a job board that's available for companies to do kind of the self-service model, to where they can post positions and they can, make the position available for anyone that might be interested and want to apply. But what we find is for those people who are in the community and have a question, if they're not getting a response, they can go to our recruiting specialist and ask for some guidance. Or we can help them with matching in certain opportunities where maybe they applied for position A with one company and they weren't selected for employment there, or they didn't get a call back. If they reach out to us, we can also suggest to them other similar positions that they should consider. And so maybe they applied for something that's just a bit ahead of them in years of experience or skill set, or maybe they're looking in the wrong region, right? So, just for sake, if you live somewhere near, a state border, maybe you're looking in Louisiana and there was nothing available then. But if you were to look in Mississippi, there could be a job not far from you. And so just having an idea of the bigger picture and being able to understand what's available. And then the other thing that can go in a lot of times, especially with people that are new to the trades, they don't understand the difference in travel jobs versus local jobs. And so they could just be looking in one area and they're starting with a very narrow search. Well, just like employers can't have their search too narrow, employees shouldn't either. And so if you kind of start wider and kind of try to get a full consideration of what the opportunities could be a fit for you, you probably have a much higher chance for success. And so we work with, each of those people that want to apply for those positions and try to help them find the best fit. But it's all about creating that engagement and for those people to have a reason to come to us. Now, everyone that engages with us on social media, they're not all applying for positions. We have a couple 100,000 people in our database, people that have created profiles and apply to the positions that are being recruited for. But we have a huge number that just follow us for the content that's coming out. Whether that's stuff on Instagram, Facebook, podcasts that we put out. But there's an opportunity to have engagement with those people. Should they have interest in a new position in the future, they will at least be exposed to those opportunities as they come available.
Okay, that's one of the things I noticed. Like you're talking about, kind of casting a wider net, so you're not limiting yourself to just your area. I was poking around on your website just before we did the podcast, and I typed in Orlando, Florida, certified welding inspector, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. But once I just typed in Florida, it actually cast the net all across the U.S. So I mean, it was like offering jobs in like Utah and Nevada and Texas and like all these different places. I was like, oh, okay. So there's really not a whole lot going on here in Orlando. But if I wanted to travel, if I wanted to boom out, like I could, potentially go work at some of these different companies.
Exactly. And boom out is exactly where the name for Boom Nation came from.
That's what I kind of figured. That's where it was, just traveling around.
Yeah. And man, so, I live in the part of the country along the Gulf Coast, which has a lot of refining and petrochem work. A lot of the projects that I see come through are going to be what we call turnarounds, shutdowns, outages. And so you have guys that know how to go into a plant and they can either work on multiple different types of units, or with some companies, they specialize in a specific operating unit and they have that special team that can come in and do that work, that maintenance activity, and turn it around real quick and be on to the next job. Those people tend to move from project to project, right? So it doesn't matter who the owner of the site may be. They could be working for an ExxonMobil today. They could work for a Chevron tomorrow, and Dow, the next project after that. But they tend to have some skills that are very specific to being able to apply even welding activities they would do to the type of equipment that they're working on. Just experience that they gain over time. And so a lot of times, whenever you have a short window to have those projects done, you're going to want those craftsmen that have the best experience and can come in, perform that project, and then they're on to the next job. So sometimes the motivations for those positions is quite different than, say, someone that wants to be home every night. They don't want to be on the road traveling. Maybe they have commitments for family at home, and they like to go to the same site for work every day. Well, guess what? There's room for those guys too. And so it's just all knowing kind of what your motivation is, what opportunities exist, and then making the decision that's going to be the best fit for you.
So do you have employers that kind of fit both of those needs? You have a partnership with them through Boom Nation to where, if that's what I wanted to do, if I wanted to get out on the road and just kind of do shutdowns and turnarounds, like I could find potential employers there. But also if I kind of want to just stay right here in Central Florida, you have long-term employment opportunities as well. So you got like a mix.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll tell you, there's even a third group that goes in, and that third group is going to be capital construction. So if you think about a turnaround or shutdown, that tends to usually be between like a 30 and 60 day window. You think about a maintenance project, that's going to be, a different site, maybe every, 30 to 60 days. And so, but maintenance is going to be 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day in and out. Well, with capital construction, those jobs tend to be more like 2 to 3 years in duration. So you may still have that crew that wants to work on the road. They a lot of times live out of a camper, and they may go to a job site, stay at a campground close by, and travel home only a couple times during the year. The motivations of each of those workers is very different. The pay is going to be similar, but can be kind of different when you start considering things such as per diem and travel pay, and then sometimes the production schedule and stress can be very different, right? And so if you think about maintenance, you're really focused on keeping everything up and running and making sure you don't have any major upsets. With a turnaround, you're worried about getting in and getting out. It's got to be as fast as possible because they've got these projects planned down to the hour, and every hour that unit is down, it's not producing, right? And so you've got to be fast, and it's going to be high stress for the most part. And then with capital construction, you have a long timeline that you're working with. You have milestones that you're trying to reach. And so work schedules could be different, the number of hours, per week, and the stress is going to be different. So it's just one of those things you kind of have to know who you are as a person, what's going to make you get out of bed in the morning and want to go to that job site to take care of business, and where you see yourself being able to start on day one and make it to your project completion.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Everlast Welders. Are you looking to pick up your first machine? Maybe you're ready to upgrade from your machine you bought at the local big box store, or maybe you need a machine or a few machines for your small business. Well, check out Everlast Welders. They have a machine for every skill level, budget, and process you need to handle, even true multi-process machines like the Lightning MTS series. Check out the full list of power sources at everlastwelders.com and see which machine is right for you. And as always, if you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal, get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG Torch upgrade when you type in Arc Junkies in the comments section at checkout. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I never even thought about the third group, but I mean, I've kind of worked in all three of those different areas. And you're right. You're right about the stress, especially you get a shutdown or something like that. They have, because I used to do a lot of work for the theme parks. They have a guaranteed no shit opening date. Like this attraction will be back open, come 9 a.m. on this day. And like
they've already sold tickets. You better be ready.
Oh yeah. It's nothing but assholes and elbows the whole, 3 to 4, depending on how long the shutdown was. And usually the amount of time that they've got scheduled for the shutdown, like they somebody, screwed up some numbers, because like you usually need a lot more, but you still have to get in there and get that work done to whatever, completion it is for that ride to be completion, or that attraction to be functional and safe once again, and have that work done. So, I mean, they just start throwing more bodies at it and more man hours. And, it is a very high stress environment. Whereas, if you're doing capital construction, you got 2 years on this job. Yeah, okay. We can ease into this thing. We got a little bit of time to mess things up, or, if the material doesn't get here, we've got other things we can do. So it's not as high stress, because a lot of people, they can't operate in that high stressful situation. So that's not the type of work that you want to get into. You need something a little bit more laid back, a little bit more well planned out, well thought out. Something you can go in and clock in every day and clock out every day and be home with the wife and kids and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, man, I tell you, a big difference is we talk about the work schedules. Let's think about the number of hours that could be worked, on each of those jobs. So typical maintenance is going to be 40 to 50 hours per week. A lot of times they're not paying those people overtime, but they plan out their work, and they plan their staff to be able to hit it with minimum overtime. Excuse me. If you look at a turnaround, you'll have your pre-down, your post-project, but when you're in the middle of your project execution, you're probably working 7/12s, and there's probably day shift and night shift. So it's around the clock, because time is money. You're going to make it happen. A lot of people can work 7/12s for 1 to 2 weeks. But if you're going to be on that 2-month project, you start asking yourself, can you work 13 days to get 1 day off, 12 hours a day, and turn around and do it again? And okay, now we're going to do that for 2 months. It can wear on you really hard. Now, you've got some guys that do it day in and day out. They never, blink an eye. But then you might be that type of person that, well, I could probably work more like 60 to 70 hours in a week. And I like to have my 3-day weekend every now and then, because I just need to catch up on whatever I have in life, that needs to have some time and attention. So you really kind of have to think about those trade-offs. Those 84-hour paychecks are great, especially when you have per diem on top of it. Plus, if you're working that much, you don't have any time to spend money.
Yeah, that's the biggest benefit right there that nobody really talks about.
Exactly. But there's a cost for that, right? And so that cost is you don't have any life outside of going to work. Hopefully, mom's packing you a lunch, to bring with you. You've got a hot meal whenever you get home, because it's bath in the bed, right back to it tomorrow. But some people thrive in that environment. There's just some people that can get in and get shit done. So it's one of those things of maybe you take a chance on one of those projects and just go ahead and commit to yourself that you're going to see it through to the end, but kind of test out and see where you fit and see if the money's worth it to you, or maybe if the better work-life balance is a little bit more important, and to be able to go to one job site every day is kind of where you need to be.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did when I was with the union. I went in and, we were working 40 hours a week, and I was like, oh man, this is cool, and by like the next week, they're like, hey, we're ramping up, I was like, okay, what's that mean? Oh, we're going to do some overtime. Oh, okay, cool. Like I could always use a couple extra bucks on my paycheck. They're like, yeah, we're going to 6/10s. I was so green. I was like, what's 6/10s? Like I didn't know what that was. They're like 6 10-hour days. And I was like, oh man, that sounds like a lot. And then like by the next day, they were like, hey, we just got bumped to 7/12s. I was like, well, okay, 610s is, oh shit. Okay. Like this is a lot of work now. And, we did that literally for a couple months at a stretch. You'd go out and hit a shutdown for 2 months working, 712s, and then they'd kind of ease you back, and then it'd ramp you right back up again. You might have a couple days off here and there, but for the most part, you were working, and it's high stress environment. And but that's the allotted time that they have. You've got to meet that window. This is how many bodies we can fit. And a lot of times we'd have trades stacked one on top of the other, man. Like you got the electricians working right above you while you're, welding the column down. But it'd get crazy. But luckily I don't want to say I was eased into it, but like it was definitely not what I expected when I signed up. And when I got there, I was able to adapt, and some people couldn't. They were like, yeah, this isn't for me. Like I just want to clock in, get my 40 and go home. Okay. So this probably isn't the type of career path you want to choose, because you don't want to be miserable out here every day.
Exactly. One of the special, unique groups I think that you see sometimes that kind of develop out of that is sometimes you'll have husband and wife pairs that are involved with these projects. Sometimes they're both working in the field. Sometimes one of them works in the office while the other one works in the field. But they're riding to work together every day. They're riding home in the afternoon. They have no time outside of work. And you just think, man, this has got to be so different. But it's a lifestyle for people. And I can imagine it can be really tough on the people that their significant other isn't there with them. And then, when you have a chance to see one another, maybe in passing, and that'd be about it.
It could also be tough having your significant with you that much time.
Exactly. I think my wife would kill me.
Oh yeah, I've worked with some
patients quick.
Right. I've worked with some guys, and like we get along great, but you start living and working next to somebody for so long, it's only a matter of time before you're at each other's throats.
Oh yeah. Well, man, I see some stuff with meeting guys that work in the pipeline, and so a lot of them have welder helpers with them. Do you know how many of those guys have their wives being their helpers?
Yeah,
it's a lot, right? I tell you what. I don't know if my marriage would last, because sometimes I have a short temper and I say things that I regret later, and I don't think she'd let me get away with that shit.
No, I'm sure they'd probably give it back just as hard.
That's right.
And that's probably why it works.
She might hurt my feelings,
There you go. Now you were talking about building a profile on the platform. Like what all goes into that platform? Is it just like your demographics, like name, address, phone number? Are you able to go in there and kind of like populate a resume, a skill set, anything like that?
Yeah, so we leave it pretty open that we don't require a whole lot of information, and that's because we know that people want to engage at a different level. So we have the Boom Nation app available on the Apple App Store and Android, where you can download it there. And we find the experience is better for people that engage through the app, but we don't restrict it to where you must download, right? So you could just go to the website. You can see the jobs that are posted. And if you see a job that's there, you can click on apply and complete whatever information is needed for that position. For the social campaigns that we do, those are ads that we put up across all the social platforms. There will be a link on each of those ads where someone can, if they're interested, click on the ad. A link will pop up with a short form application. And there tends to only be somewhere between 5 and 10 questions for them to answer and to begin the process. And so we found that most people don't want to waste their time with a 15 to 20 minute application, only to be ghosted by an employer that really has no intention of calling them back anyways. And so what we try to do with those short form applications is only ask the relevant information that's really needed. Examples of that could be, can you pass a background check? Can you pass a drug test? Are you certified, right? Basic information that someone can do from their phone. They're not having to log into a computer, put in an email address. And we do a lot of communication with the applicants through SMS text. We find that people on their mobile device, and that's how they tend to respond most proactively. And so you can go on and create a profile, and you can complete it out with your years of experience and certification, and then you can apply for positions from there. Or you can go through and just see positions that are posted on the board, click apply there, put in whatever information is required for that particular job. Or you could just find us on social media, see an ad that you like there, click apply and answer a couple of those questions, and you're into the process. So we try to make it easy for everyone coming in. We find if we become too restrictive, we're just going to end up not having a large enough audience to really reach the people that we want to. Because you have people that have different level of comfort with technology. You have different comfort with how much personal information they want to provide. And since we're not the company that is doing the actual direct hiring, we're recruiting for the companies that are. There's no need for us to gather all your personal information. There's too many scams out there today. If you start
Tell me
looking at
about
the
it.
Facebook groups, man, and they'll ask people for social security cards. They'll ask people for bank information, everything else, and all they're doing is taking from these people. They take and they take, and they're going to screw people over. We don't do that. We stay out of that role position. We don't want anyone to feel like they need to be guarded and careful with their information, and we send that over to the employer, connect them up, and that's where the exchange of information comes in then. And so we don't ever want to have anyone concerned that there's anything like a scam going on.
Okay, well that's definitely a plus. I like the fact that you guys in the app. Like, I haven't got onto the app because I'm not looking for a job. But you guys do have some of the different photos and stuff on the website. But I think it's really cool what you have. Like, it lists all the requirements for that job. Like, here's the tools and equipment that you need. Here's the contact information for once you get to the job site. This is who you need to see. You get like the pin on there for when people need directions to the job site or where the meetup's going to be or maybe where orientation is taking place. Like, everything looks pretty cut clear and very user friendly.
Heck yeah. Look, I'm glad you bring that up. So we definitely want to be able to help people that are looking for opportunities. We want to help, for employment. We want to help companies that are wanting to recruit people to come to their team. But we encourage everyone to download the app and use it for all of the other aspects outside of searching for employment. So there's a news feed that is there. There's the opportunity to connect with other people that are in the skilled trades. And you can see information. A lot of what we have are people bragging about the jobs they do, right? So we'll have equipment operators come on and, rise and shine, time to go make the money. And they, have some cool job that they're working on. We could have welders that come in, look at this cool shit that I built. And they want to show it off to everyone, just like you see on other social media pages, except for you're doing it here with a targeted audience of other people that are, involved with the trades. There's opportunity to connect and network with one another. So you can direct message through there. And there's opportunity to bounce things off of people. Maybe you need advice on something, but it's one of those things of trying to create an improved experience for whatever level of engagement you're looking for at that time. And so, even though we have several positions that are posted, we end up having several people that engage with us because they are looking for employment. We also have a lot of people that just want to come see the funny shit that's happening, right? And so it's just kind of wherever your interest is of that time, we want to, there to be a reason for you to come back again.
Okay, so you do have like a networking aspect built inside the app.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because we were talking about it earlier. Like, I don't know if we were recording or not, but like the majority of the time, like somebody. That's how you're going to get a job.
That's right.
So, I mean, the ability to go in there and talk and stay connected with certain people and say, hey, what are they paying over there? Like, I heard you're on this shutdown. Like, how much is the per diem? What are they paying? What are the hours that they're working? What are the requirements? What's the weld test look like? You kind of get that inside scoop as to what's going on and whether or not it's worth dragging up.
Exactly. And, look, the real truth about people being hired because they know somebody, I don't know that's ever going to change. Because you look at every job that's out there for every company, most of the time people are going to hire people that they know. And that's not a political thing like, someone's trying to take advantage of someone else or you just can't get a shot. A lot of times you have to take a chance on someone. So you're going to take a chance on someone that you know nothing about, or you're going to take a chance on maybe someone that already works at your company and someone's willing to vouch for you. So the better you can be at building your network, whether that be in person and people that you see on a regular basis or have opportunity to work with before, or just people that you connect with over some of these new tools like social media platforms. The more connections you have, the more quality connections that you make, the higher your chance of getting a shot at your next job is going to be.
And then reputation's another big one. Just having a good reputation, because your reputation will precede you.
That's
a
right.
lot of times before you get somewhere, somebody already knows something about you. And it could be good, it could be bad. It just depends on what your reputation is. Do you have a reputation of like not showing up for work, not being able to pass a piss test, busting out on a weld test? I mean, like a lot of that stuff. So going back to what you were saying, a lot of times who is how you're going to get in the door, because they're like, yes, we can call up this guy because he can pass a piss test. He can pass the background check. He can pass the weld test. Like they already know. The devil you know is always better than the devil you don't know. But when somebody submits an application, you really don't know what you're going to get. And a lot of times, like I had this same thing because I used to be in the process of hiring people. The person that you interview isn't always the same person that shows up for work.
No, it's terrible. And so you have some people that are very good at selling themselves, right? And so they kind of get on the job, and then man, it only takes a few days in, and you kind of realize that the everything doesn't match up. But then on the other side, there's some people that suck at selling themselves too, and those are what you always like to find. Once they got a chance in, however it came in, and then they just come in and shine. They're going to be the ones that show up early. They keep their workspace real clean. They can work circles around everybody else, and you just think, man, how did we ever pass on this guy? What was wrong? With our evaluation process, that we would have missed out on this great, valuable employee. So it's one of those things that you have the opportunity to learn from each one of those interactions, whenever you're interviewing people, and to try to not make that same mistake again.
And that kind of goes back, like before we talked about a lot before we recorded. Now I'm thinking about it, the soft skills, having being able to walk up to somebody and shake their hand with a good, solid, firm handshake, and be able to sell yourself and your skills and your abilities so that you can get that job, so that you can stand out from other candidates.
Yep. And look, man, those of us that have grown up in a family where you had a mom and dad that taught you that, as you're coming up, they did a great service to you. You may not have appreciated it at the time. Sometimes you felt like they were riding you real hard, but they were really trying to set you up for success. Let's face it, not every kid is getting that teaching at home anymore. So, sometimes it's a single parent household. Sometimes there's parents that are so consumed with something else. But hopefully there's some instructors that are around whenever they're going through, vocational training. I was fortunate to have some teachers at my high school in the ag program, which, really helped to instill better soft skills with me. And there's just been things that you've learned over time as you had an opportunity to go to work because you needed, to go earn a living. And you try to take all those lessons and kind of roll them into something that allows other people to kind of see value in you. That obviously you got to have a skill set to where you can have some product and service to deliver. But at the end of the day, they're going to hire people. They're not just looking for that skill set. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people coming out with a new certification would do well to remember, is that it's not like you can just come out and show your paper and say, hey, I'm ready to go to work. And people are lining up ready to pull you in. Once you've got that certification, that degree, that certificate, whatever it may be, that's now your opportunity to be considered for the position. You still have to sell yourself. And so to do that, you need to focus on those soft skills, being respectable, shaking the hand, looking someone in the eye. And I don't care if you're going to come in and you're going to be the janitor or you're going to be an engineer that's building the next rocket ship. The person that does that is a whole lot more likely to be selected for employment than the person that is just coming in nonchalant, maybe looking disheveled, clothes haven't been, washed or ironed in, since the day you bought them off the rack, and you just kind of come in looking piss poor. Well, guess what? Your perceived value to everyone else that's considering you is going to be less than the person that's coming in all buttoned up.
Yeah, it's usually a direct reflection of, who that person is as an individual.
Exactly.
And then you can't be too cocky either, because you get a lot of people that, they've got the skill sets, but nobody wants to work with them. Like yeah. I've seen that too. Like somebody's really good, but, or they may not show up every day. They've got the skills to be able to do it. And damn, when they're here, they're on it. But you're not worth a damn if you ain't here, So, I mean, you got to kind of look at that too. You got to be reliable. You got to be dependable. And you got to be a team player. Because, like they don't just hire one person to come in there and do all the welding. It's a team effort. And if, you're that one person on the team that's dragging everybody down because you got a piss poor attitude or a bad outlook on life, you're not going to make it long.
Yeah, I think that's a big part that so many people don't understand until they actually get on a job site, that you're going to be a member of a crew. And your success is going to depend on what that crew can do. So everyone thinks you're going to have a golden arm, right? And all this other stuff. Guess what? Most of the people don't like to be around those assholes, right? They may have a great skill set, but let's say that you're working on welding some pipe going in, and maybe it's large in diameter, maybe it's hard to reach, but you got one guy on one side and a guy on the other side. If you're only worried about your weld going around, you're always stopping at just halfway, and they're always stopping. and you're not working that together, and there's some give and take back and forth, that crew doesn't want to have you a part of that team anymore. No matter what you can do there. So if you have a vested interest in making sure that you're carrying your weight and you're willing to help make sure that the crew's is a success, man, you're going to do so much better. And people are going to ask you to come back. And guess what? You're probably going to have a better time while you're at work anyways.
Yeah, and it's just going to lead to other opportunities. People are going to see how you interact with somebody else, because especially if you're doing shutdowns, turnarounds, and all that stuff, because a lot of times those crews, they travel from one shutdown to the next. That's their opportunity to either leave you at the gate or bring you along on the next job.
Yep. And don't forget, that's the number one way that everybody gets hired is from people that they know. So it goes back to the reputation that you were talking about. If you have a reputation of a good, valuable team member, everybody's going to be vouching for you. And if you got a reputation as a jackass that only cares about himself, you'll wear out your welcome real quick.
And somebody's going to say, "Hey, man, you know this guy? Yeah, don't bring him. Do not bring him anywhere near this job site." It's as simple as that. And you're like, you scratch your head, man. Man, I met all the requirements. Why hasn't anybody called me back? Well, because somebody, you burn a bridge at some point.
Yep.
So I've never burnt a bridge. Anytime I leave somewhere, I always leave on good terms, and you never leave somebody in a bind.
Exactly. I don't know where the attitude came from leaving companies stranded, middle of a job, and just dragging up one day, going to the next. Man, don't get me wrong. There can be issues that pop up. Maybe it could be something safety related. Maybe life events happen, but other than extreme circumstances, I just can't imagine doing that to someone that's depending on you to show up.
Yeah, it's not the right thing to do. That's your reputation. If you got a reputation for doing that, you're not going to last long in this industry.
Yeah, and I think that part of that needs to be returned from the company also. So hopefully the company is not out there and just seeing their people as a commodity, and the first opportunity that they have to cut headcount, they're gone. No warning. They don't prepare you for any of that coming up. And the next thing you know, they're trying to recruit people to come right back in. If you have those people that have that longer term vision, they actually value their people, I think that you'll see them really wanting to take care of the people that have the company's mind, value in mind also, right? And so it ends up being a much more beneficial relationship. But if you're only worried about, I'm going to start, at 8 o'clock on the dot, and I'm not going to stop till 9 o'clock on the dot here, and then I'm in and out, well, don't be surprised if people don't give you that same consideration that you didn't give to the company before.
And I think that's probably exactly where it comes from, because you have a lot of companies out there that they expect you to give a 2-week notice if you're going to leave. I mean, ideally, that's kind of like the industry standard for all jobs for more or less here stateside anyway, is you're supposed to give your employer a 2-week notice. Well, a lot of times the employer, they don't do the same thing. There's no reciprocity. They just walk out and they're like, "Hey, here comes this 2 security guards or whatever. Hey, you need to grab your tools. You need to get off the job." Well, why? Like, they don't even know that they're getting laid off. So I think that's kind of where that comes from, is like, I'll just leave now. So
Yep.
Screw them. But again, you might be screwing yourself. You might need to come back to that company.
That's
I've
right.
I've seen a lot of people leave good jobs and just to find out that the grass, it was only greener on the other side because it was covered in a bunch of horse shit. And like now they're coming back through the gate. But if you gave your 2-week notice, yeah, they might bring you back. If you just drug up on them, you left them in a bind, chances are you're probably not coming back, regardless of how good you were when you were there.
I can't tell you that I'm happy with every change that I've ever made in my career. I've definitely learned lessons back and forth. There's been things I've taken from each organization that I've worked with, but the company I was with the longest was a company called Total Safety. I worked for them altogether over 15 years, and I actually did 3 different stints with them. And the reason I had the opportunity to do 3 different stints is I did not burn that bridge a single time. So I left twice, and another time I was just part of a reduction of force. That's the way that things kind of go. But if you have the right intent going into each of those decisions, and as long as you don't put someone in a bad position, and you handle your business accordingly, I think people remember that. It carries a lot of value with those organizations as well.
It does. And then you might need a letter of recommendation also, or, a company that you leave. Like I've had a lot of companies vouch for, me and my skill set to new employers. I can always call up one of my former employers and say, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation or a reference letter for, I'm going to go work over at this company? Oh yeah, sure. No problem. It's all about reputation and conducting yourself as a professional.
Exactly right. So let me ask you this: you have a lot of students that are coming through your welding courses, and you talk to a lot of people that are maybe new to the trades. What type of experience are you recommending to your students to have work experience by the time they get their certification? Or do you find that these students are wanting to just wait till they get to the end of the course and then figure out the next chapter when it comes?
I try to help, as they're going through the program. When I was teaching full time at the college, I would kind of identify what their skill set was. But we'd always start working on like we were talking about earlier. Soft skills are probably the biggest thing. Show up on time. Put in a little bit extra. I had this sign outside the door. It was 10 things that require zero talent. So regardless of how good of a welder you are or how horrible of a welder you are, you still could be a good, a valuable asset to the company. Like, don't stand around with your hands in your pockets. Oh, you're waiting for your plate to cool? Cool. Go grab a broom. Be productive. Help other people. Stay on top of what you're supposed to be doing. Again, show up early. Stay late. Burn every rod, piece of wire that you can while you're here. But it was more soft skills. I was trying to change their mindset into becoming a professional, because a lot of the students that I would get that are going through the welding program, they've never really had a job. I mean, they may have, poured coffee here and there. They waited on some tables, hospitality industry, working at the grocery store, bagging groceries, but they really don't have that work ethic built into them. So we would start focusing on that like every single day that they were in the class. I'd give them different tasks and projects and say, hey, here's how long it should take you to do this. And then a lot of times I'd put people together that don't like each other, because you're going to have to deal with it. So I would try to, as much as I could, kind of simulate a real world environment. We had a time clock in the classroom and everything. So when you come to class every day, you're clocking in, you're clocking out for lunch. At the end of the day, just to get them in the habit of being a productive employee, and just kind of, once they get out to the job site, then they knew exactly how to conduct themselves. And then as far as like where to send them after the program, I'd try to identify their strengths. Like we were talking about earlier, you got these 3 different types of work environments, high stress, medium stress, low stress, a lot of hours, just 40 hours. I would try to identify and say, hey, you're afraid of heights. You might not want to get into ironwork. Or, you can't sit in a booth all day. You might, or, in a shop, you might want to look into ironwork or pipe fitting or something like that, so you can get outside, you can be outdoors. Or, like you're kind of a prima donna. Yeah, you might want to sit in we'll find you a job that has a welding booth or a welding table and air conditioning and all that stuff. So I would try to match the personality of the individual up with the company. So I kind of did, I guess, what Boom Nation does. I would go out and meet with the local employers, find out, what's this work environment look like? What are the skills required for this person? And try to match that up with the students that I had back at the school. And over the course of the 6 years that I had taught there, like I had several different employers. So I could always, match the student up with the ideal employer and vice versa.
That's great advice. One of the things that I think that a lot of people could do to kind of help themselves with a head start would be look for other positions at those potential employers where you want to go to work, and try to get your foot in the door that way, right? So maybe it's a general labor position. Maybe it's a helper, some things of that sort. Just some way so that you have an opportunity to demonstrate your work ethic and build a relationship with that company, because it's exactly what you said earlier. They need some real world experience, and what better place to do that than someone that hires people with the exact skill set that you're trying to go to school for. So I think too often people sit back and they look for, oh well, when I finish this or I finish that, then I'll take the next step. Man, you got to be laying that groundwork every single day. All the soft skills that you're talking about, being prepared for work, clean work areas, all that goes in. You just start to set that mentality to where you're prepared. If you can build a relationship with someone that is a possible employer for you in the future, you'll be off on your way before you know it.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good way to do it too. I've never really thought about that, but if you can get in, like, okay, I know you're not looking for a welder helper position, but you know what? Take that welder helper position. You already know how to weld. They're going to be able to see the potential in you. You don't meet that 5 to 7 years worth of work experience to get that welder job. But if you go in as a welder helper and they see that potential, you're there every day. you're doing a little bit extra. You're not standing around playing on your cell phone. They're going to give you opportunities and say, hey, why don't you come over here and show me what you can actually do with that MIG gun or that stick or that TIG torch? And that's going to provide additional opportunities for you. I mean, that's going to give you your chance to shine. Because once you're in there, they don't care about what the requirements are to get into this job. If you can do the job, they're going to bring you over.
Yep. Man, we see it all the time, even where people start talking about entry-level position. This always changes for whatever reason, kind of the supply and demand thing. You'll see people advertise for helpers, and they want helpers with 3 years experience. Hold on. That's not the same. That's, what are we talking about here?
You're wanting a welder. You want to pay him a helper rate.
Exactly. And so if you have some experience, you can start to justify a little bit more what your pay rate's going to be. But if you're just begging for that first opportunity with someone because you just need a chance to go to work, man, your chance for success is going to be quite a bit down if you don't have any experience going in. So just being accustomed to the work environment, is a big deal. And it's different in the classroom than it is out in the field. So I think that's something that people can kind of step back and look and just see that you're looking for that opportunity to be able to demonstrate your value and your skill set, and be prepared because you never know when it's going to pop up. There could be somebody call in sick one day, somebody no show, and it's going to be the next man up. They're like, oh, well, George over here, he told us he's a welder and he's got it. And man, here's your chance to shine. But if you're not there, it's going to be somebody else.
Yeah, that's your opportunity right there.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Now, David, where can people find Boom Nation?
Yeah, so great place to go would be our company website, which is boomnation.com. From there, you can see the jobs section, click on jobs and see all the positions that are posted there and employers that are wanting to connect with skilled workers. Also encourage everyone to find us on social media, all the content that we put out. So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, look for Boom Nation USA. You can look for Boom Nation Presents, which is one of our podcasts, or Long Live the Trades. Facebook, you can find us there, the Boom Nation page. We also have a group called Boom Nation Blue Collar Jobs. We're on TikTok as well. I'm not active on TikTok myself. I have a hard enough time keeping up with everything else. And then, obviously we're on LinkedIn for some of our relationships with our customers and companies that want to, connect that way. So those are the best places to find us.
Well, fantastic, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and kind of inform the listeners about some of the different opportunities y'all have.
Thank you, Jason. It's been a pleasure to visit with you, man.
Yes, sir. Likewise. All right, everyone. Thanks for checking out this week's episode. If you're enjoying the show, please be sure to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps me out to spread the good word of welding. And please share the show with any other welders you come across you think would be interested. Remember, there's not going to be any episodes next week, but you can check out some of the episodes that you may have missed up till this point. I hope you all have a kick-ass week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.